Okay, so welcome everybody. We're really happy to have you with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Kuuyux Ilarion Merculieff. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talking circle. Our other elder, Louis Cardinal. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talking circle. Our other elder,
Just a minute, please.
Louis Cardinal. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talking circle. Our other elder.
Just a minute, please.
Louis.
Okay. So anyone who has YouTube on, you can hear it on YouTube as well. So choose Zoom over YouTube.
Come
Just a minute. Yeah, you can speak. I'll do this.
I can't speak over your head. Okay, can everyone hear me all right? Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry for the introduction. This is the first really worldwide Zoom conference, and we're learning the ropes, so to speak. But anyway, Angwan, Kamala Kamna, Kamala Kasuda, Tingananganwe, Unanganasakta, Kuuyux, Kawalanganunanganwe. I said, good morning, hello, my other self, Angwan. That's the way that my people, the Unangan people of the Bering Sea, greet each other every day. And we've been out there for over 10,000 years and we're still there. And I said my traditional name is Kuuyux, and we are people of the sea line, the stellar sea line. We have a very close reciprocal relationship with the stellar sea line. Anyway, welcome. And Louis Cardinal was supposed to be on, but somehow he can't seem to find the link, or he can't seem to activate the link. So whatever happens, happens. And he was supposed to say the opening prayer, but it doesn't seem like he's on yet. I'll ask Yael, my wife. No, he's not on yet. So I will go ahead and say the opening prayer. And you know, I noticed that several people that we invited are not on. Are they?
Some are on and some are off. We have 100 participants.
Okay.
So make it.
Okay. Well, to start the process, I will say a prayer, and we'll just take a deep breath. Settle into ourselves. Aho. Takashla Makatanka. Aho. Thank you for this day. Thank you for our life. Thank you for our loved ones. Thank you for everyone else that is with us in this sacred circle. Thank you for all your teachings, inside and out. Thank you for the love that you show us each and every day, inside and out. Like the eagle that teaches us that we too can soar high and see far. Like the owl that teaches us that we too can see in the dark. Like the salmon that teaches us that we too can come home to you. Like the trees that teaches us that we need to be rooted in order to grow tall and be strong. These and many, many teachings that are around us and inside of us if we have the ears to listen. We thank you for these teachings. And we thank you for this gathering where people will share from their hearts. And we ask for your blessings. Masicho Kalalakoranis. Olivia, would you please introduce yourself and continue on?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Olivia. I'm co-hosting this event with Ilarion. Ilarion will explain in a bit the concept of traditional talking circle. It is a different format from what we're used to in, let's say, the more patriarchal way of doing a webinar or an event, which is, there's speakers and there's an audience. In this case, everyone is together. And what I want to bring as well, as a reminder of this new form, is also a new way of being while we're in it. So for a moment, I'd like to invite everyone just to set the tone within ourselves. And that is, you could call this a brief meditation, or you could call this simply a reminder of centering in ourselves. So first, making sure that you're comfortable, that you have what you need physically, and taking a moment to just feel our inside of ourselves. Maybe taking a deep breath or two. Settling into the base of our body. Which brings a slower pace. Releasing whatever we need to and settling. And centering in our heart space. Literally just finding a point in the center of our chest where we can rest. Noticing here a natural sense of expansion. Noticing how this spot takes us to the here and now. And one more thing, noticing how when we're all in our heart center, all of a sudden we are one being, which we already were, but we can perceive it now. And especially in times of separation, physically, we might feel lonely or alone. So just noticing how this event is an opportunity for us to feel each other. So what's it like for us to drop expectation of what it is to be an attendee at a webinar that we're watching, or be someone who's chatting with a friend, often from the mind, and instead today have a different type of presence, an opportunity to be nourished in those places within the emotional heart that maybe have been alone, an opportunity to feel across geography is the togetherness that we are here. And what I invite you all to, at any point, or potentially over and over during this time together, is to keep coming back to this. So take a mental photograph of how you feel right now, of how you're settled, of the pacing and of the listening that's available from the heart space. And so just notice what it's like to experience today from here, and what it's like to listen from here. how is listening different? And then if you do feel called to share at some point, what does the heart share? Which is very, very different from the mind holding all of these ideas of things that we want to say or things that happened yesterday. But actually, how can we be our own listeners to our own heart? Like, I have no idea what I'm about to say until it comes out, and wow, that's actually what's alive for me. And so in that way, we're always present with each other, and you can feel like we're one ocean together, and then the waves kind of come up and down based on this naturalness of what's arising. And as this one organism, each of us at different points, each of these points, that's where the light comes through in that moment. And it's like a improvisational music playing. It's not something you can plan in advance. So whatever you're holding on to, feel free to let it go. And what's important will arise at the exact moment that it's ready to. Thank you for being here with full heart and fully embodied in the present moment together. I'll pass it back to you, Ilarion.
Okay, Kalako Anganis, thank you. Very briefly, this is to be an experiential gathering, and we are showing you a way that people in traditional cultures communicate and make decisions on important issues. And that's called a talking circle here in the US. It's called other things in other places in their own language. And the talking circle is that we are in a circle, in this case, a virtual circle, where everyone is equal. There's no one any more or any less than another. Now, and that we listen without agenda. That is, that you don't think about what you're going to say in response to what somebody else has said. We just simply listen. And we speak our own truth, where we only speak from our own truth, which is from our hearts, and we speak about ourselves. We don't speak about others unless you are going to say something in the affirmative about that person. We don't use violent terms like "I disagree with so-and-so" and these kinds of things. And so we call that violence and violent communication, because we are very energy beings. And when we start to criticize or put down someone else, we tend to get defensive and close up our hearts. So we want this to be an open heart process. So please keep that in mind. And then everyone has their own truth. And your truth is equally valid as my truth, even if it's 180 degrees different. And we don't disagree. We just simply speak our own truth. And I have practiced this for over 30 years in everything that I've done. And the results are always far exceeds individual expectation. When we listen and we use consensus as a way of making decisions if we have to make a decision. And during these times, we don't take the time anymore. We're goal focused. Whereas the native way is process focused. We are processing. We believe that the processing is more important than the end goal. Because if the process is put together properly, then the end results always exceeds individual expectation. And we are recording this. So if you don't want to be heard, then you must be aware that we're recording this and we're going to share this with people. And so whatever you share, unlike the most talking circles, which is closed, we're opening this up to everyone. And most of the time we close the circle and we say anything said in the circle that stays in the circle, and that we don't discuss outside the circle unless everyone agrees, or if you're going to talk about someone outside the circle, you need that someone's permission to talk about whatever it is that you're going to say. The idea is that this talking circle is a communication tool, and we want everyone to truly communicate, not just say words, but communicate from the heart. And to do that, you've got to be safe. And so, but anyway, you can use these talking circles in any way that, any form that you want to use this, this way of communicating, which we Indigenous people call the civilized way. And so I think that covers most of the salient points. Now I want to introduce Suzanne Swibold. She is, well, not that age is important, but she's in her 80s. And she's from Canmore, Canada. She's an artist, an explorer, a teacher, a naturalist, and her artistic vision and passionate curiosity have led her to collaborate with renowned paleontologists, my people, the Unungan people in the Bering Sea, and modern dance choreographers, and many, many other people. And Suzanne has a BFA from the Chicago Art Institute and University of Chicago, and an MFA from the University of Michigan. And she has taught art, photography, and film in the US and Canada. She's a recipient of Canada's highest award in the arts. She has produced independent documentary films and published widely in periodicals and books. Suzanne produced and filmed 4 documentary films, and this is where we met the first time. She produced 4 documentary films on the Pribilof Islands, and then we became good friends ever since. So I've known her for over 40 years. And so she's a research associate with the Arctic Institute of North America, University of Calgary. She's been invited to lecture and conduct seminars internationally on her film techniques and her conservation efforts in the Bering Sea. So it's really an honor to have you here, Suzanne. And would you please present whatever you want to say? Now, I should point out that she is a member of the Wisdom Weavers of the World. And this is a group of elders from throughout the world. We met in Kauai in 2017, and we are, I'll explain a little bit more about the Wisdom Weavers later, but she is our very first white elder, because the white culture needs to restore, we feel, their respect and honoring of elders. And she was embraced by the Indigenous elders from the other cultures. And so, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Larry. But I have to tell you, I feel like a white seal. Because when you said I'm white, I think if I'm an albino, so maybe an albino from the sea. Never mind, that's my imagination. Thank you very much. Am I on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my interest is what is going on today. And fortunately or unfortunately, it's all over the world. You know what I'm talking about. And Helen coined the word panic endemic. So panic-demic. So anyway, there's a lot of panicky going on, a lot of fear, a lot of hope. We're all over the world. We're facing something this generation have never faced before. I faced it before when I was young, when I was 6, for the pandemic of polio. So I managed to make it through there. So I want to talk about what I see is coming now for the whole human race, if we can get to this. And that is the making whole, WHOLE, making whole of the inner world of our emotional selves. And we have all been brought up on the outer world. But the inner world is going to be the most important trip that the human will take, because that inner world exists in the mind. And that's the one thing that we're not trained in at all. We're not trained in how the mind works. How do we get to the point of hating this person, calling another person a name, pissed off at the world? It's always out there. It's always someone else is causing this mess. And every time I hear it, I say to myself, he's calling himself a name again. She's calling herself a name again. So that's where I'm really contemplating where this inner business comes from, where we hear someone on the radio, we see someone on the YouTube or whatever visual thing you're looking at, and we make snap judgments right away. And so the picture that we're getting is a partial one. And that is because the world picture from science is never anything but a partial understanding of a world picture, just a partial one. Science is all little bits and pieces, bits and pieces, bits and pieces. If you go through our whole history, human history, holy mother. So we start with sensory impressions. Only our immediate access to knowledge of the world is through our senses. And I'm looking at moving along from sensory impressions to purpose and meaning. And that's something that Aristotle and Plato talked a lot about. And it was called telos. And telos meant purpose and end goal. And that's the thing that I ask, what is the end goal of the human being, the human race, if you want to call this a race? And so I'm looking at awakening to the wonder of what is beyond what can be seen, the wonder of that. And as an artist, whenever I start a drawing or a painting, whatever, whenever I make the first mark on the canvas or the paper, I'm in wonder. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I've got some vague idea, but then I have to make another mark and another mark and another mark. And I have to watch what I'm doing so that as I see it work, it's got to have harmony. It has to be harmonious for it to work. So these are the principles of my life work that I'm putting into that wonder. And what is the definition of wonder? It comes from the natives. The native definition of wonder is no words. When you wonder, and someone could say, what are you doing, Suzanne? Something is so wonderful, full of wonder. And that's one of the things that's happened with our fragmentation of wholeness. We have forgotten wonder. I wonder why we hate each other so much, except for little bouts here and there of love. But then I look at that and think, but we're really made of love. That's what we're made of, is nothing but love. What you were talking about, Larry, we're just made of love. Why is it so hard to come there? Well, what happened in history is there was a wonder. We were brought up as children, Winnie the Pooh and all these other stories we were brought up with, is all of nature, that which is not me, all of nature is animated, totally animated. Like we taught, you know, and this has all been documented a long time ago now, I see, is when a rock falls to the ground, it's trying to get to the ground. Oh, I see, that rock wanted to get to the ground. When the trees are close to each other in the woods and they're making noises when the wind blows, they're talking to each other. Oh, really? And I remember when the whole pile of daddy long legs, it was a march of spiders crawling over my sleeping bag when I was little. And I was yelling at my father, get these spiders off of me. And my father came and said, Suzanne, that's a whole army of spiders that are on the way to do something. Oh. And that's the kind of world I grew up in. It was animated. And then along came physics. And what is physics? Just think a minute. What is physics? Every time you haul out your device, we squash that world of wonder. We squash that, especially Native people who look at the world animated. What is that mouse really doing? So that's where I'm coming from, is the discovery of the spirit. And the spirit resides inside us. We can't see it, but it operates. And it also, spirit is never born and it can never die because it's not a thing. It's a movement. So that's where I'm talking from, is what has happened to us when life has lost its purpose and meaning, which I hear many, many, many young people say to me, I don't know the meaning of life. That's why I'm on fentanyl. And I say, meaning has to be acquired. And then we get into a discussion. So I can leave it there for now.
Okay, well, thank you, Suzanne.
Okay.
Those are words of wisdom to really contemplate and take into your heart. The wisdom weavers of the world is something that is an organism, not an organization. And we call ourselves an organism rather than an organization because we embrace the concept of and the understanding of hello, my other self, that every single being and person is my other self. And that the only separation that exists is an illusion where we think we're separate people. And part of the original teachings is that we were all one. And we have a choice now of becoming one or not during this lifetime. And the wisdom weavers, of which Suzanne is a part, say that the world must change now, change their consciousness from the mind to the heart, where the heart tells the mind what to do rather than the mind telling the heart what to do. The Yupik elders here in southwestern Alaska say that we live in a reverse society, or the inside out society, because we reversed all the laws for living. And one of the most important ones is that the heart used to tell the mind what to do, and the mind's job is to figure out how to implement what your heart is telling you. And going to your heart is not an easy job right now, because we have lived so many thousands of years separated from the heart. And it's going to take great courage for everyone in the world to go to that place. And Don Alejandro, who was the keeper of the day calendar for the Mayans told me one time when we spent a week together up in Canada, that the ones who are going to negotiate this time the best are going to be the people of the fire, which means people of the heart. And the rest are going to be, well, we've got to pray for them. Well, I understand that, Louis, you're on. Let me see if I can see where you are. Can you unmute yourself there, Louis?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
But let me introduce you first. Louis Cardinal is a communicator and educator. He has dedicated his life's work to creating and maintaining connections and relationships that cross cultural divides. His work has been mirrored his personal vision of a socially just and responsive society. His long track record of public service includes founding board member of the Alberta Aboriginal Arts, board member of the Theatre Network, co-chair of the Aboriginal Commission for Human Rights and Justice, board member, board emeritus of the Council for the Parliament of World Religions, just to mention a few. Louis has received Queen Elizabeth's second Diamond Jubilee Medal for public service, the Inspire Award for public service, the highest award given to an Indigenous person by Indigenous people of Canada, the Province of Alberta Centennial Medal for his work in human rights and diversity, Distinguished Alumni Award from Grant MacEwan University, and has recently conferred with the honorary degree of Doctorate of Sacred Letters from St. Stephen's College at the University of Alberta. So Louis is Woodland Cree from Sucker Creek Cree First Nation in Northern Alberta in Canada. He has a consultant company called Cardinal Strategic Communications. It's an honor to have you here, Louis.
Well, the honor is all mine, Larry. Thank you for having me on. And I do apologize. I've been having some computer issues over the last couple of days, and it's apparently some sort of routing problem. It keeps shutting off and on. And anyway, so that's why I don't have the video on, because it delays everything. So please accept my apologies for that. And listening to our conversations that we've had so far is a very timely conversation. There are a lot of people that I've been speaking with that are very concerned and very hurt and I guess confused in terms of where we are today. And so what I hear is that from my ceremonies, I'm hearing about relationships and reconnection. This is a time where we can reconnect with those traditions of who we are as human beings, regardless of what culture and tradition that you come from. We are in an age that is affording us a rethink of where we're at and what we can do, and asking elders that I've worked with over the years. There is a consistency in how we are trying to reconnect with those traditions. So the elders are saying that I think the biggest issue that we've had, and maybe this is changing now, but is that we have seemed to have lost our sense of relationship as human beings. And because of what's happening now with COVID-19 and the whole economic issues that are underlying everything, is the chance to rethink and reconnect to what is the most human part of who we are, and reconnecting with the spirit of our collective Indigenous nature as human beings. One of the lessons that I've learned is that human beings are Indigenous people. It's that we have slipped away from what is connected and connects us to Mother Earth. And we've replaced it with a technocratic society and have not really regained that connection. And so going back to why we're on this call becomes very important, because now, because of what we're faced with and the concerns that we're trying to deal with as human beings, is giving us an opportunity to reconnect and to become more of the nature of our humanity than we have been lacking over the years. And I'm saying this as a general statement to all of us, because I know that you know, it's something that we continue to try to connect with. That's now being presented to us in a way that is very unique. So I will leave it there, and I hope that you think about that, and I'll turn it over back to you, Larry.
Thank you, Louis. I should point out that the origin of this talking circle was we were working with the Wisdom Weavers of the world have been working with the Guardians of Life and the Pathways to Consciousness pulled together now, and United Religions initiatives. And we decided that it's time now to have a group that is worldwide to get together. And I'm hosting it as a member of the Wisdom Weavers of the world. And the Wisdom Weavers of the world is going to launch a worldwide campaign I think it's targeted for March 22nd, which is Earth Day, and with messages from the elders. Suzanne is on that, as well as many other elders from throughout the world, with their messages to the world to answer two questions that we had. We're going to put out during this release a 14-minute film that will have the elders speaking, and it's going to be interpreted into 14 different languages, a subscript of the film, and distributed worldwide by Reuters news service, which is a worldwide network. So just so you know that, then I think that we should open this up for people to share whatever they want to share that's on their hearts. And my significant other, my partner, my wife, Yael, is going to put that person on. If you would just raise your hand if you want to say something. I can't hear you. Olivia?
Yeah, hey, sorry, I just had some Wi-Fi issues. Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay. It cut out for about 30 seconds. We're starting the talking circle, right? Okay. What I notice is when I speak from the mind, it feels like a more surface level layer. And from the heart, it feels a lot deeper. Like if it were the ocean, it would be like the surface waves compared to 20 meters below. And how easy it is to hide down there. And the habit of speaking from what I know is culturally accepted, at least through my own upbringing. And how the risk of speaking from my heart is the risk of actually saying something new. which is new to myself too, which is probably why it feels so vulnerable, because there's no rule set for it. There's no previous acceptance because it's so new. And there's a desire to know what I'm going to say before I say it. And that's not possible from this depth. What I honor here with all of you is the relief of knowing that even if this form of communication has been really blocked through words, that there's the solace of knowing that through the silence, these currents have always been there. Rather than feeling like there's no foundation at all, or that it's been totally lost. And so today I speak not with a particular new message from that space, but simply a message of what it's like to yearn for a sense of safety and revealing myself so fully. And coming back into the practice of risking that. It feels like during this time, perhaps what we're learning is that the risk of vulnerably revealing our truth, our emotions, our knowing, whether the brightest light or the deepest darkness, perhaps we have to do that now. So I speak as the one that's learning how to find my voice again. And that's as good as it's coming out right now. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Now, you notice that she is speaking from her heart, and it's different than speaking from the mind. And so this is something that is new to most people that we've met around the world where we've talked. And so we encourage you to speak from the heart. And please be aware that other people want to talk. So when you are talking, tell what your heart is saying.
Now Niels, please.
Now who?
Niels.
Niels? Yeah. Niels. Are you there?
Now you can hear me, hopefully.
And Olivia,
I'll keep it short. What's coming to me is this beautiful insight of knowing that we need to act, that each and every one of us needs to act, but we need to do it in a way where we slow down. So I need to slow down and be conscious in my actions, understanding that I am one piece of this global puzzle where all pieces are equally important. And we all have equal powers to actually make this shift happen. And it always and only starts within ourselves. So honoring the shift that is happening in the world as a shift that is happening within me. And supporting others in that shift happening within myself. Knowing the shift will happen through my heart. It will happen by building bridges to other people, to other nations, to other groups, and to co-create and interact, knowing we all hold a single piece of the puzzle, but none of us holds the entire puzzle. We need to come together for this shift to happen. And it always starts with me starting to act, but from a conscious place of slowing down. So that's what's coming to me. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you for hosting this and for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you, Nils. Yes, that is very true. And that is that the pace of the world is slowing down because Mother Earth is trying to help us. She has been crying for her Earth children. And now she has let loose this virus, which is a stress on the natural way of things that has created this virus to come forward. And it is literally slowing the whole world down. We're using less gas, we're driving less, the ozone layer is healing again. There are animals showing up where people used to be. There are more natural things that are happening. And she is raising her consciousness. And as she does that, she is helping us because that is touching places within ourselves that that are much lower in consciousness and raising it to our surface. The Hopi and Maori say, take nothing personally now, because everybody's going through something. And that something is what has been buried inside of us, deep inside our bodies. Thankfully, our bodies remember, and bring it up to the surface so that we can deal with it. We either choose to deal with it or we ignore it. And if we ignore it, we do it to our own folly. And so what we see as Indigenous people is that this thing called pandemic is really a gift from Mother Earth. Okay. Gemini? Andrea Maynard.
Hello, Tansy. Oh, well, I am here as a tearful heart today. My heart is in pain today. And it's in pain a lot these days. And I know that my gentle offering to the world and to the earth is to shed these tears. But it's very vulnerable. And I guess by sharing my vulnerability, it's trying to tell that little part of me inside that's so frightened of being so touched by everything that I can't escape it. And by being public, by speaking in this circle with truth, I am telling those vulnerable parts of me that it's okay. It's okay to be so touched by the world. We're here to touch each other. And what Louis said about relationships, we're here to touch each other, and it's going to affect us. The wounds that we've created and caused each other are going to surface. And I just want to thank you for your open hearts and circle, because we're gonna need each other. We're gonna need each other. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. That is very true. The Hopi say that the time of the lone wolf is done, and that during this time we need each other. We need each other across the world. And when you share your pain, it reminds us of what is real, what is in our hearts comes out, and it affects all of us. And when you can feel that, then that is starting the healing process. Okay. Andres.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel a lot of, I don't know, I would say frustration in these times. for myself, of feeling like I'm not ready for this or something, like I'm too young, or have too much in my mind, too much pain, too much suffering. It's like I can't separate myself from everything else. And I'm seeing all these gifts that I have that I somehow need to get out into the world. And I just get stuck in this very vulnerable part of myself who just don't know what to do, really. Like, too much mind confusion, and I can't really feel my heart. It feels like, yeah, I feel like almost like a shameful to be so much in the mind, when I remember how it was to be in the heart. I feel a lot like most of my life I never belong in this society I grew up in. That it was like very early for me, like, no, the people around me are not my people. This is not my culture. Everything just feels wrong. And for me, animals were my family since I was quite young, so to say, and still are very important for me. And I remember before I was age 19, I had a lot of spiritual connection with my ancestors. It was like there was a doorway open to something very deep. It was like I could feel it, sense it in my connection with the forest and wild animals around me. And it brought me onto this life journey, so to say, and gave me purpose in a world which I haven't felt any purpose in before. Something happened when I was 19, and I fell into something, psychologists call it panic anxiety syndrome. And it sort of say closed, put like a barrier in between me and the world. And even though I could still track and follow the animals in the forest, I didn't feel that the connection was fully there. And it's since then I have had carry this pain in my heart of longing to return to what was true. And I don't know what to do, really. Like, I'm still learning how to be human. It's so much easier to be a deer or a fox or a wild boar or whatever. And yeah, I guess I struggle with just finding guidance somehow. Like, I don't know how to work with his mind. It just lives in so much pain all the time. But at the same time, I feel a lot of hope right now with everything that happens, and that things are changing in the right way. So I want to thank all the animals on the trees and that supported me throughout my life and helped me to find a core of myself that is really true. And I want to say thank you to all the people who helped me remember Thank you.
Thank you, Andres. Suzanne, would you say something about this? You're on mute.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I will be absolutely candid and absolutely honest, is that when I keep hearing about the mind, it reminds me that our culture and most of the culture of the world has never done any mind training, unless you're Buddhist or something like that. But we don't understand why the mind, it's not the heart, it's the mind that's making us panicky, because we believe that we are separate and there's no one that's going to help us. There's no God, there's no nothing. Nothing. I said cannabis. Oh, let's have some more cannabis. Toke it up and you'll feel great. And I don't negate the heart whatsoever. But the heart is not the one that's making the decisions. It's the mind that works away at something and says, oh, that effing Donald Trump. And I go, oh, yeah. And I think inside myself, never mind, Suzanne, he's your brother. He's your brother. I love him. What do you mean you love him? Did you vote for him? I said, it has nothing to do about voting. I love everyone, but I've had to work at this for years to see what the process is. What Donald Trump does is what he does. It's not who he is. And that's where I think our anger comes from. I think our brutality towards one another, our fear, our runaway, our things we make up. And I think we have to have mind training. Where is the ego? The ego sits there on the other shoulder and says, tell him to get him. And the other side, our spirit sits on the other side and says, blah, 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 blah. Because you found out you are loved. Every single one of us is loved. And like, what's his name again? What was it, Andrea? The one that just spoke. That's what I want to say to him. I want to sit down with him and put my arm around him and said, your mind, you know what that is with those animals. Your mind is there with those animals. Learn from them. They have something to teach you. Don't throw that out. It might be hard to connect with your neighbors, but you'll find them. You'll find the love of people because you'll start to understand the ego says this and the love says the other thing. And where does the heart come in? The heart waits and says, yes. Yes. When you get there, the heart, I can feel my own heart saying, yes, we can do it. And we can do it when we realize that we were given a mind. It wasn't, I don't think we had bore a hole in it and shove this thing in called a mind and hope it heals up and then you go, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it works that way. And that's why we're trying to honor our wholeness. Our mind, our heart, they work together. I know from having so many operations lately, I'm supporting the hospital and the doctors. They're cutting me up and sewing me up. And I'm going like, ah. And then I realize I'm going like this because I've forgotten who's with me. Who's with me in here? Who's with me in here? I don't have to be afraid. I can never die. And you, Andreas, what was his name? I can't see it there. You're not going to die. Larry, you're not going to die. Yeah, you're not going to die. None of us are going to die because spirit lives forever. And Native people know that when they sit by a rock or they sit there with a dead whale, which I did on your island, Larry. I sat with that dead whale. And I realized that big one that washed up, that big fin whale that washed up. And I sat with that animal and I cried and I laughed and I sat with it and talked with that animal. The eye was still open even though it was dead. And I thought, wow. So your animals are always with you. You make friends with those animals. You embrace those animals. They'll always be with you because they were sent to you to help you. And Larry, that's what I learned from your people. You know, just walking that land. And like you said, when we get our feet off the land, we're in the Aleut version of hell. Well, guess what version of hell we're in now? Because we've just went, what's the difference between dissecting an eagle and dancing the eagle dance with the natives? What's the difference? Well, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I would like to add that the Hopi Maori say, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move to the center, find those who have done the same and celebrate. What that means is letting go of the sides of the riverbank means letting go of all human attachments. And that's not easy. I should know, I started my journey 40 years ago. And move to the center means moving to your proverbial heart center and the center of the river of life, because it knows where it's going and we don't. Find those who have done the same and celebrate means that this is the new definition of tribe. It's that the tribal member, that when you find somebody who's done the same, which is to jump from the sides of the riverbank, those are your new tribal members. That's the new definition of tribe. That's what the elders are saying. Okay, and Louis and Olivia, if you have anything to add to that as we go on, please do speak up. Who's next?
Paula Bay.
Paula?
Paula Bay.
Paula Bay.
Paula,
I feel very honored to be here with all of you and you beautiful elders. And actually, on one side, my heart is very much bleeding to see the pain and what's going on right now in the world. But on the other side, my heart is very happy, because what I see is the younger brothers listening to the elders, to the older brothers from Indigenous people, for the first time, listening from their heart. So what I see happening is the younger brother coming together with the older brothers, and Mother Earth telling us it's a time that we are not anymore in separation. It's not just us and them, it's just us. And it's a challenging time, but it's like it's somehow been in the birth canal and needed to come out into the light and see the truth. So I'm in full gratitude to you elders to be here to guide us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. We Indigenous people who understand these things, that we need everybody. There is not one single person that is not important. And because we are here in this time for a purpose. All of us have a specific gift to give to the world. And that's what the elders are saying, that we all have a gift. And the gift is given when you access your heart. And the one thing about, I asked the elders, what do you define culture? They said, well, you know, the 2-year-old child, that is the model for our cultures, because a 2-year-old child is still a real human being before they get on all the layers that we get on as adults. And when you think about the 2-year-old child, this is one way to get to your heart, is to, you know, when the child emotes, they emote naturally. And when they get angry, they engage their whole bodies. and when they do that, they let go of the pain of whatever made them angry in minutes. And, you know, they may be arguing with their buddy, and then 2-year-old just gets angry and then lets it go. And then they're playing with their buddy again. This is the way that 2-year-olds are. Olivia.
She's muted, I think.
Ilarion, I just want to add to what you said about letting go of the riverbanks, going to the middle, meeting each other, and how that requires letting go of attachment. And for us to, we hear about attachment all the time, but oftentimes we think about the things that we really like that we don't want to let go of. No, I don't know if anyone else has been feeling this, but lately, as this time is bringing forth an even deeper aspect of ourselves, I've noticed that, at least for me, a lot of my suffering parts, it's time for them to go. It's time for beliefs like a belief in my aloneness that I've carried my whole life to go. And I realize my attachment to that, my attachment to the shape that I became when I molded myself to my aloneness. And if that goes away, if connection actually comes, then the shape of who I have been, the identity that I created around that suffering is going to change. And what's it like for us to actually grieve or mourn or give an honorable goodbye to the parts of us that are dying? Ironically, sometimes it's the parts that we can't wait for them to go. They've been hurting, and then when it's actually time, there's this strange love, like she became my best friend, that aloneness.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Yeah, Al?
Hi, my mic doesn't work on the other computer. I want to step away from technicals for a minute and share from my heart, because what was said also ignited the feeling that I have been having lately, which reminds me of what I was going through when I was giving birth. And everyone was talking about the immense fear and the pain and warning me about this being a life and death matter. And it was all true, but once it started happening, the pain was so great that I realized if I'm gonna die, I'm going to die. There's no way I could stop it. So why not open my eyes and see what else is there? And there was joy, and there was adventure, and it was fun, and it was funny, and it was, you know, so many other things have happened alongside the pain and the fear. And I feel at this time kind of the same. There is, you know, great anxiety and fear and not knowing. It was going towards the unknown and just really surrendering to Mother Earth, which was going straight through me. I mean, my body knew how to give birth. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I just went with it. And it seems to me that women can try and, if you can recall that, because we are constant change, you know, our cycles and our wombs, and then the pregnancy, and there's milk, and then there's not milk, and then there's not blood, and we know change, and we need to recall, and we need to remind ourselves and our other selves, women and then humans, about this, because change is not only something to be feared. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Al. So who's next?
Hanifa?
Hanifa?
Thank you for this circle and for everything that has been spoken from the heart. And I want to specifically acknowledge the a couple of things for me. The mind is a tool that we can use, but we are not to be used by that mind. It is a tool for us. And when I'm listening deeply to how the sound of the voice that's coming through. So there's words that are on the surface that are being spoken. And then there's feelings in the heart that percolate. And then the way that I tend to do it is I allow a concentration of what's been heard and allow what needs to fall away, like that isn't part of what needs to be sensed. And the natural world shows me how these parts of myself operate. And I concentrate, and I might ask for assistance from the eagle to help fly me above the distinctions and the differences that my mind creates, so that I might see a deeper meaning behind something that might feel disturbing to the sensitivity of my being, which is just like water. And so when I'm listening, I want to hold the purity of that water and keep that purity as I'm listening deeply. And I need the help of all of what has all of the possibilities that are there, but I need to be able to listen and then allow what doesn't need to be there that creates fear or disturbance in my deeper sense of myself, so that when I fly like the eagle then looks down into this beautiful pool of water, and it sees very clearly the wholeness of something. And it's that wholeness that when I speak, I don't create a separation with words or thoughts, but I hold it all. Just like the talking circle is that pool of heart that has expanded itself to hold the entire planet and all beings in it. And if I hold it still, then I can listen. And when I listen, I know if I need to take activity or if I need to be still and just allow something more to come. And this coronavirus is stilled a lot of activity in the world that is allowing a clearer picture, a clearer vision to formulate. And for me, I want to be grateful for this opportunity. It is a sacred thing to be alive now, to be part of what is evolving. And it's evolving everywhere, within every living point of light, which for me is the spirit. And that spirit is opening and unfolding. And for me, I pray with the depth of being. That vision becomes clear to the wholeness of life. So thank you for letting me take this breath in and out for the circle that is present. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanifa. Yes, you know, when we talk about fear, which is something that is around the world right now, the elders are saying that we're energy beings, and that what we choose to focus on becomes our reality, and that the world has imbalanced so much that we're focused on the end results of things that are in reaction to what is being done, like destruction of the earth and murder and wars and things like this. We have good people that are trying to stop these things, but what that does, you know, we have more environmental organizations today than there were 30 years ago by the thousands all over the world now, but yet Mother Earth's life support systems is coming to the edge. Why? Well, the why that the elders are saying is that we are focusing on reaction to something, and that energy, that mind, heart, spirit energy goes into that thing that you're reacting to and makes it bigger. That instead we must drop these things and focus on what we want the world to be, and not in reaction to anything else. Yes, they say stop, you know, if your heart tells you to do something, to stop something, do it, but don't pour your mind, heart, and spirit into that. Okay, we're running out of time, but we've got maybe room for 3 more people.
Please be respectful of time.
Please be respectful of the time that we have.
Matthew.
Matthew?
Well, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here and for sharing your hearts. Pretty much everything that's been said has touched me, has resonated in some way, very strongly. But especially what Suzanne and Larry and Olivia have been saying, Suzanne especially about the harmony in your artwork, and seeking harmony and balance in the world today. I feel like this can be thought of as a crisis, but also an opportunity. And for me, that opportunity has been to face my own fears, to examine the beliefs that have given rise to those fears. And so far, in every single instance, that belief has been proven false, even the one of death. And so as those beliefs fall away, the fear has fallen away too. And that has been a really wonderful experience. And if nothing else comes out of this life, I'm grateful just for that. And at the same time, also just being able to extend that invitation to others and to feel those moments of awe and wonder and celebration when someone else has that same realization and they drop their fear too. And in that become more self-aware and more loving. And you know what, Suzanne, what you said especially about the lack of mindfulness practice has been something that has been very present for me. And it is something that I would love to see brought to the forefront of a more loving society. How that happens, I don't know. It's something I definitely stand with and support. And you know, if that means getting it into the schools and the education system, however it can work, I would love to see that happen. But again, just thank you all so much. And it's been an honor to be here. Aloha.
Thank you, Matthew. And next.
Next, Inga.
Inga?
Inga, are you speaking? We can't hear you.
Inga, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay, Michelle Martin.
Michelle Martin?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the circle. What is on my heart is I appreciated what you said at the beginning, Larry, about process over goal orientation. I definitely was raised with a real emphasis on setting goals and making an outline for how to achieve those. And even as in recent years, I've really done a lot of work to shed, to get out of as much as I can the toxic cultural paradigms that I was raised with, and I've heard and felt the call of my mother, the earth, that she is being just decimated in so many ways, and wanted to help her. I found myself trying to do that in ways that are goal oriented, and that just, I haven't been able to felt like I've been very effective in those avenues. But lately I have been finding myself just in process of trying to learn what it means to be a whole human on this planet. And I've been looking somewhat to the wisdom of my own Indigenous elders and ancestors, and looking to teachers whose wisdom resonates with me, but also just trying to be in a process without a timeline of creating an ancestor shrine and just working with it in my own way. And I live with a housemate and her kids and my son, and we're just in process and beginning to be more just consciously in process of, okay, well, what we're about right now, when we're not in this, now that we're not in this constant kind of rat race of kids to school and the culturally imposed paradigm that we've been in, is we're here to raise our children in a good way. So let's be in process about that. And that's what's felt good to me right now. So I really appreciated that, that ground rule at the beginning, that's what we're in. We're in process. We're not trying to accomplish anything that we can articulate necessarily.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, well, in Alaska, where I'm from the Pribilof Islands in the middle of the Bering Sea. And all the villages in Alaska have a close connection with Mother Earth. And we developed what is called earth-based pace. That is the timing of our lives. We walk slower, we talk slower, we do things slower, we have time, we take time. And because slowing down is absolutely necessary now. It's always been necessary, but it's more so now than ever before. Because when we slow down enough to listen to Mother Earth, because she works at a different pace, and we have to meet that pace. Okay, who's next?
My Brit.
My Brit?
My Brit.
My Brit.
Hi, and thank you for the circle. And hi, Larry. It's good to see you again. I feel so much that the song of the birds has changed. After this human culture has slowed down, or we have taken a step back from the dominance that we have inflicted upon this earth, something magical happened right away. And first I thought I was just, I just moved. So maybe the birds here were just different. And this was all new to me, but I saw it reflected everywhere in people's writings on the internet and comments on the internet and, you know, talking to friends. And I suddenly realized that how quickly the free natural world around us, when we stop just an inch of our dominance, how quickly they change. And just this little bit of magic coming alive again, the way they're singing, the way they touch my heart differently. And I don't want to lose that again. I don't want it to go back. I feel that they finally got this little bit of a breath. They can breathe again, differently. And I am enjoying it so much, but I have to admit that there's a fear in me as well, that everything will go back to normal, that this will stop again, that their voices again will change back to being smothered. But I hope that our prayers will support it, that they can continue. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, my Brit. Maybe we take one more.
We can take one more. Okay, Nancy.
Nancy,
Nancy, are you speaking? You need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Nancy, you need to unmute yourself.
Here, I unmuted her.
There we go. Now you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes. This morning when I took my usual walk, I often recite E. E. Cummings' sonnet. It begins, "I thank you, God, for most this amazing day." And I really wanted it to be an amazing day that I took in wholly. And when I received the invitation to join this circle today, it was like the answer to that prayer. So I thank you for the circle. I thank you for everyone who has spoken. I thank you for all that I have learned as I'm listening. I am 77 years old. I'm a retired teacher. I'm sitting here with my husband, who is the same age and also a teacher. But we're learning how much we have to learn about coming to the heart. And it feels so right and so good. And I thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for those comments. And I think that we're into the time. Suzanne and Olivia, Suzanne first, do you have any final words? What?
Louis is with us also.
Suzanne, do you have any final words?
I want to thank everybody for sharing. And it helps me a lot to understand who's out there, what are they thinking, what are they feeling. That's all that oneness, that's that wholeness. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this program, is that we can come together as one people and can trust, sharing our tears, sharing our laughter, sharing our philosophy. It's just great. Thanks a lot, Larry.
Okay, Louis, you have any final words?
Yeah, thank you, Ilarion, and thank you, Nancy, for what you had said, and Suzanne and Olivia. I'm very honored to be able to have listened to the good words and the heart-filled blessings that you've given us all. And as we face this uncertain time, one thing that brings me back is remembering that, we're not looking for anyone else other than ourselves to make the changes that we need. And in so many ways, the elders have said that we are the ones that we're looking for. We are the ones that can make the change that we need to make. So thank you, everyone. Hi, hi.
Okay, Olivia.
It's been a privilege to feel the vulnerable authenticity of those who have shared in words and those who've shared in silence today. Thank you. I want to remind everyone that this can be something that we can keep doing, that anyone here can invite their community and host a talking circle so that this level of connection can keep happening and become the new way. And Ilarion, maybe you can provide some information about the newsletter or Facebook or something so that people can stay connected with further events that we'll be doing and ways that people can continue the conversation in this community too. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
I will do it. Hi again. So you could just look up Wisdom Weavers of the World. We have YouTube, we have Vimeo, we have Facebook page and group, and we have a newsletter, and we have a website by that name, wisdomweavers.world, and you're there. We would love for you to join us, and there will be more of this because there seems to be a lot of interest. So thank you very much for being with us.
Okay.
Larry, one message from Helen, who is beside Suzanne here. Suzanne is just starting to put short videos on YouTube under her name, Suzanne Swibold. And they're just a way to connect with yourself in easy drawing exercises. And I really recommend that people go and check these out. They're very centering and grounding drawing exercises.
And can you put that in the chat box so people can copy paste it? Thank you.
Okay, yep. So www.wisdomweavers.world is to hear whatever and whenever we're going to hold sessions. Wisdom Weavers is going to, my co-facilitator Olivia and I are going to conduct these kind of talking circles at least once a month, if not more, depending on the demand. So thank you everyone for
the launch.
The launch.
We're going to launch.
Okay. Yeah, remind me that we're going to launch the worldwide campaign for the Wisdom Weavers on the 22nd, which I mentioned in the very beginning. And we are, as she mentioned, in all of the social media. And we're going to have a 14-minute film that will be shown when we launch. And so keep your eyes open for it, March 22nd, April 22nd.
Okay. 2 years ago, Kuuyux had the calling to gather elders from all over the world in Hawaii. He didn't know what was going to come out of it. The messages, as you've heard from Louis and Suzanne and Kuuyux, are also messages that the other elders have co-created and wanted to bring it as a message for humanity. Now, what they were saying 2 years ago is so exactly what's going on now. It's unbelievable. And so somehow the movie came out exactly for that time. We're going to launch in 2 weeks on the 22nd of April. And it's that campaign. It's just an offering to the world. So
okay. Thank you, Yael. Louis, can you say the closing prayer, please?
Yes, thank you. As we leave each other today, let us all open our hearts and open our minds and remember all the ancestors that are around you, who are reaching out to you, who are encouraging you. And give thanks to Mother Earth and the great Creator for everything that has been given to us. And that we continue to talk and we continue to share our stories, share our knowledge, and share our wisdom. That together we can find the answers for the changes that we need to make in ourselves and also in our lives and also in this world. Bless you all, bless all of your families as we move through these uncertain times. Hai nanaskumtin.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you all for being in this sacred circle. Thank you very much. We will see you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good to
Thank you
feel
so
like
much.
Very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Love you all.
Very much.
Love you all.
Thank you so much.
Very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Gracias. Thank you.
Jimmiquich.
Gracias. Merci. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Mga tusentak. Thanks very much.